What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Plague Inc. Evolved with the Cure DLC. And today we are going to take a look at the authority stat down here. We are going to look at what affects it, what does it mean, what makes you lose authority, what makes you gain authority, and we will start by looking at the perks you can pick at the start of the game. So here we are with the task force screen, and we will look at the different task force members you can choose that affect your authority. Now in the first abilities tab we have 5 abilities, there's 5 each, so 25 task force members in total. And the only one here that affects authority directly is the last one, the Crisis Manager, Field Operatives, Slow Authority Loss and Country of Deployment. The Field Operatives is kind of a team that you can send from country to country, and when you deploy them in one of those countries, they slow the authority loss in that country. So that is the only one here that affects it. So if your goal is to use these guys a lot in crisis areas, and you send them there, then obviously this helps affect the authority loss. Then in the second tab we have literally nothing that affects authority, which is a bit of a shame, but well, that's what it is. And mind you, I am mentioning things that directly affect authority. What do I mean by that? Well, if you, for example, have a reduced fatality rate, that also helps your authority because less people are dying, so less people are worried about death, which would hurt your authority, so that also somehow helps your authority. But we're only looking at those that directly affect it. In the third one, we have several ones that are connected to authority. We start with the Ethics Watchdog. That's the Operations tab. Start with more authority but no fake news or censorship. These are skills that affect the authority. We will look at them in detail later on, but you start with more authority. I think it's 15 more. Then we have here, this one doesn't do anything. Reduce authority loss from panic. Panic is when the disease spreads a lot, when people are panicked. And we have Disaster Manager, reduce authority loss from deaths. That's what we had with the reduced deaths earlier. So when you have a lot of people dying, that reduces the loss of authority. And this one doesn't do anything. Now here we once again have, unfortunately, nothing that has anything to do with authority. And here, unfortunately, as well, we only have things about transmission, so nothing about authority here neither. So really only in this tab and in this tab do you really care about the authority. So here we are with the World tab. You can access that down here, or when you are in this tab buying things, you can switch up there. And here you see what causes your authority damage. Now we already see 3 of the factors. We see panic, we see deaths, and we see disease spread. What does it mean? Panic means we have a lot of cases. As you can see, 105 million, that's a lot. Deaths mean, well, we have a lot of people dying. And disease spread means a lot of different countries are getting it. As you can see, there are barely any countries left that don't have it. So these are the different things. And here you can also see how many did you have in recent time and how many in total due to the different reasons. And I mean, right now we kind of have to fight everything, but when those numbers are a little bit lower or you only have one of them, then you can directly fight the cause there. You are usually also told what to do here. Infected people are panicking or dying, obviously fund response initiatives and lockdowns to reduce infection. Yes, obviously. But this is just a hint of what you are supposed to be doing. Now why is authority so important? Because of this. If authority falls to 0, the plague wins. And now I have added another one, namely the non-compliance, which is the last one. 31 recent, 38 in total. As you can see, we have quite a bit of authority damage taken. And what is this non-compliance? Well, it means people do not like the measures you are taking and they do not want to follow it, so you lose authority. How did that happen? Well, I gave them lockdowns, as you can see here. And on the map you can see the non-compliant states, and these are the problem, 100%. If you only look at the total number, 49%, that's very high, but you can probably still deal with that. But those countries where you have these fists here, that's where the non-compliance is incredibly high, and those cause your authority to drop very, very rapidly. And then you can see here what the non-compliance does. 31 recent authority loss. And here you can see it again. Too much non-compliance, fund economic easing initiatives, or disable quarantine measures. So those are the different things that lower your authority. But you might be wondering, well, what can I do about that? And that's what we are going to look at next. So the first thing we are going to look at is here in the response tab, which is up here. And there are two initiatives you can take: triage protocols and new infrastructure, which have an effect on authority directly. And triage protocols, as you can see here, significantly reduce fatality rate but reduce authority. So if you are very low on authority, that's maybe not exactly what you need. And new infrastructure, build new critical care hospitals and external triage centers to increase medical capacity. Reduce fatality rate, reduce authority loss caused by high numbers of infected. This is very useful. Reducing authority loss caused by high numbers of infected is what we hinted at earlier in this tab about the disease spread and the panic. Now, a high number of infected is the panic stat, which we don't have right now because our infected numbers aren't so high. And obviously getting these also limits the spread, which also helps. But this loss caused by high numbers of infected is the panic. If you have a lot of panic, then getting this certainly helps. So next up we look at the operations tab, and here we have this cluster down here which affects authority. The other ones don't directly affect it. This is for the vaccine, this is non-compliance, this is authority. And this string is very straightforward. It increases your authority, so you buy it and you get authority. So that's really straightforward. You pay points, you get extra authority to kind of buy yourself some extra time. More interesting is up here, censorship. Authority frozen for 1 month and increases non-compliance. So let's say you are close to winning, but you only have 2 or 3 authority left. That's your lifesaver if you can't get any of these. This is what saves you, because this freezes authority for 1 month. It can also, and that is very important, buy you time to fix a situation. So you freeze your authority while you're losing tremendous amounts of authority. It's really breaking down fast. So you can get censorship, and while this month is in effect, you try to fix the actual problem. Now, you must think about it very carefully, because obviously this costs points, and those points might be needed to actually fix the problem. So it's always kind of, you have to weigh what you need and what you can afford and how you want to do it, but it can be a lifesaver. And at the same time we have fake news here, which is exactly the same. Authority frozen for 1 month increases non-compliance. Again, it's exactly the same. It increases non-compliance, which is annoying, but again, authority frozen for 1 month, same effect, same thing you can do. So that's just important to keep in mind. Also, you can't pick this up while this one is in effect, which is why it's locked right now. I think that makes sense. The rest of the mechanics is actually pretty straightforward to explain, and I've set up something here. We have, as you can see, put several quarantine measures into place, and as you can see, the countries don't really like that. So non-compliance goes up to 100% in some of these countries, and that costs us authority. Wrong tab. As you can see, non-compliance 7 and 38 in total. And it's pretty easy to combat that. You either have this to reduce non-compliance. As you can see, the compliance risk is incredibly high. There's a tree of 4 kind of helpers here, plus these 2 that you can use to fund single countries. And this decreases the non-compliance. As you can see, almost gone. Now we still have countries where it pops up, but you can already see our authority increased again because the non-compliance went down. Now if you are completely just overwhelmed by that, then what you can also do is just lift the quarantine measures. Lifting these quarantine measures will completely reduce the non-compliance you had from the quarantine measures. And as kind of an aside, you get a lot of resources for it. But again, if you need to use the quarantine measures, then these can really help with the non-compliance. This can really help with the non-compliance. Just one thing, if you use this, do not use the team that automatically spends the economic aid on countries with 100% non-compliance. It's useful when you have only singular countries, but when you have like the entire map full of it, and that's not good because you're just constantly spending. Whenever you get 2 points, constantly spending. And yeah, that's not the idea behind that. So it's something to watch out for with the whole authority and non-compliance issue. Apart from that, there's really the deaths, disease spread, and panic, the most common ones. And I think it's clear what you have to do. Panic, you have to reduce the number of infected. Deaths, you have to reduce the number of dead people. I mean, we have the measures here. We have reducing the spread and reducing the fatality rate. And here we have things that can reduce the spread from country to country. So I think it's quite clear what you need to focus on from what you have here, but a fairly healthy strategy incorporates all of these things to kind of keep the authority loss down. So that's pretty much it. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, farewell.